Hey everyone, welcome to the Electric Supercar channel. This week we're going to talk about some things that I've done wrong. Let's get to it. Today's sponsor, we have Gear, and this is the InfraRed P2 Pro. Oh, look at that. Some good looking stuff. Can't wait to try it out. This is the world's smallest thermal camera at only 9 grams. The resolution is 256 by 192 with 25 hertz. Very cool. Let's go look at some things. So this is looking in my garage, and you can actually see, like, I'm gonna say the studs in the wall, and the insulation. And this side is south facing, so the sun's hitting that side. It's probably a little bit warmer. Here's what things look like outside. Kind of the dark color, bluish purple is the snow on the ground. Over here the snow is melted. Got garage and other things, trees. Very interesting to see the world through this. All right, I've got 2 trays of ice and then the battery modules. We're gonna try this experiment again with our new IR camera. I verified the temperature with a thermocouple and had the same 15-minute timer. The LG Chem battery module with the integrated aluminum cooled only from one side. Kind of towards the bottom, or around 13 at the top, 14, 15 C, something like that. The battery module and cooling setup that I am planning to use cools from top and bottom. It's like right around 11 C, 10 C. And you'll see that like top to bottom, it's a lot more even. Again, looks like it's a very even cooling all the way throughout. Here you can see the differences side by side. My setup is more uniform and cools more efficiently than the integrated aluminum plate. It even has a snap-on magnetic macro lens to get the really fine details. If you're interested in picking up one for yourself, as you can see, they're very cool, very useful. I'll leave a link to the product in the video description below, along with a coupon code.
Was that wrong?
I know what you're saying. There are so many to choose from. Should we start alphabetically or chronologically? I'm just gonna go through a couple things that people have pointed out that I thought are actually really good suggestions and things that I'm gonna change. All right, so one thing we're gonna talk about is bus bars. In particular, the way that we're joining the bus bars. So bus bars are really just a way from getting energy from one place to another. And I designed these to have a cross section much bigger than anywhere else in the system. So I didn't want the bus bars to be the weak link in anything. The bus bars are joined to the battery modules with this hole, and the battery modules actually came with
these nuts.
So what I did for the other areas of the bus bar is I copied that same design. So I said, hey, if that's good enough to fasten to the battery module, that should be good enough to fasten to the bus bar. But there were some comments that people made that said, hey, well, actually, you're joining more than one battery module. So really, your joints for your bus bar should probably be a little more robust. I did some research, I looked at some things, and I'm convinced that they need to be beefed up quite a bit. So let me show you what I'm doing. So to connect this to the battery module, it's actually an M5 connection. And reading through the literature, it said for the cross section that I'm doing, it suggested to use an M8. It also suggested to use Belleville washers and to torque it to 17 Newton meters. This is one of the things that helped swayed me over is all the factory connectors of bus bars have much bigger threads and fasteners. So this one, these are M8, and that is what I'm going to use for all my bus bars. So although we've got some of these made up, it's not going to be super challenging to unbolt them, drill things out for the correct size, and rebolt them with the correct hardware and the right torque specs. So here's the plan of how to fix all these bus bars. So what I'm going to do, these are where all the previous fasteners were. I'm going to use a wire brush wheel and kind of just remove the layer of rubber to be able to kind of disconnect these. So those were on there very good. I'm happy with the torque as well as the Loctite, the washers, everything seemed to be really good. So I think we're just taking it to the next level. Once they're disconnected, essentially they're all going to be in their various pieces. I need to re-drill a hole just slightly larger to accommodate the larger hardware. We got the holes drilled out on these ones as well. I've got one down, I've got about 20 to go. Oof. What a chore. I've taken all the bus bars apart, drilled out the holes larger. I've been deburring, so these ones I think are all ready to go back together. One of the other things I learned that I could have done better is the surface at which the bus bar connects. So a couple things, I chose to do a nickel-plated coating. This is great to kind of protect it from corrosion, but the area that I'm doing this in is gonna be kind of a sealed box, so it's not really gonna be open to a lot of possibilities for corrosion. And I'm actually coating it with rubber coating. The best electrical contact you can have is kind of just copper to copper. Also, you want it to kind of be nice, smooth, flat. So I'm actually gonna take some sandpaper and get things nice and flat and just bare copper. So I'm trying to fix these up the best I can so they'll conduct electricity really well. They've got just a little bit of the leftover rubber, and I've also noticed as I'm cleaning them up that there's just slight ridges. And again, it's ideal that they be perfectly flat, so I'm just gonna show you what I did here real quick. I've got some 400 grit sandpaper on this, and I just hold it flat. So you can see the very edges, it's kind of shiny, but the very edges are starting to show the copper, and even around the hole. So it just kind of shows that it's not exactly flat or even. And it's also got just these striations that kind of go in this direction. So basically this is now 400 grit, and it's pretty shiny, and again, we're just getting at the bare copper. And then what I've done is I've gone after it with 1000 grit just to give it a nice polish. Again, make sure we've got great surface area to connect. That should give us really good contact right around there. Another thing I learned that I could do better, I heard some information from some people that said, hey, you need to make sure to put some copper terminal paste on there, and that will really help. This article suggests that's not necessarily the best idea, and a lot of these copper terminal pastes are actually non-conductive. So I checked that out, and it turns out that it's not conductive, so it's really not helping any conduction, and again, we're not having a lot of corrosion problems, so we're not gonna do the copper terminal paste. We'll show you a quick resistance check with the copper terminal paste. It's got copper in it, but it's also got, I'll call it some sort of like petroleum product or something. It's got a nice big glob there. So we'll just show you the resistance here. We put these together, so it's 0.4 ohms of resistance. And if I just put the ends of the leads in here, there's nothing, absolutely nothing. So I can get it like as close as possible without touching, and there's still just nothing. So non-conductive. The copper terminal paste actually has better resistance than I think even our rubber. So we're not going to be putting any of the paste in between our critical connections. So now that we've got bus bars that are drilled out and prepared for the appropriate hardware, we also have the bus bars down to bare copper and as flat and smooth as possible. We're also not going to put on any of the copper terminal paste. It's time to put these back together. We'll put these back on a battery module so we get the exact right spacing, torque things down to the required torque specifications. As you may recall, I made some 3D printed parts to mock up some bus bars. Well, just like that. So those bus bars have now been made by Sen, so we'll get them installed. All right, these are the bus bars I got from Sen. I'm just gonna go ahead and coat them with all the other bus bars. I have a saying, it is never too late to make a good decision. It's often very challenging because it'll cost money or take extra time, but in the long run, it's usually worth it to make those changes. So let me also clarify, I think if I didn't do anything, I think there's like a 90+% chance everything would have been just fine. But I think it's always worth it to kind of take that extra effort, make sure everything's as good as it possibly can be. So if anybody wants to really geek out on a lot of this bus bar information, I'm gonna put a link to all the information that was shared with me. Again, very in-depth, very thorough. Now that we've got the bus bars a little better taken care of, let me get on to a couple other fixes that I've done. All right, one of the next things I'm looking at is the fuse situation. So I have two fuses that are 800 amps in parallel. There have been some comments though that say, hey, they're not gonna be like perfectly balanced. So meaning that maybe the electrical path is easier through one versus the other. And that way one is gonna blow a lot earlier than the other and you may not get 1600 amps. It's best practice just to use one fuse. And I know there's a little bit of a time factor. So I even actually got some bigger fuses, like a 1600 amp fuse, and that's kind of when I really started looking at the technical specifications. My previous build had two 500 amp fuses, not in parallel. I had two separate battery packs, one 500 amp fuse for each pack. And I did do some data logging for some high power output events like a 0 to 60 or a quarter mile. And what I found was I could get up to about 1100 amps for a little bit of time and obviously did not have any sort of fuse problems. So when I really started looking into it, if I used a fuse that was this size, it would never blow. I mean, never blow. I would have to hold 1600 amps for an extended period of time, like minutes. And so that's just not possible. Because after about 10 seconds, the motor has nothing left to give, so you can't keep drawing more and more power. The amps actually slow down. I looked at the function curve, so the amps versus time for these fuses as well as some of the other fuses, and I think I've got it overkilled. This line here represents the fuse that I got. On this other axis you can see time, and then here you can see the amps. I've highlighted two lines, 2000 amps and 1000 amps. And you can see that I could pull over 2000 amps for over 10 seconds with a single 800 amp fuse before it would give up. So what I'm realizing is I only need a single 800 amp fuse for my setup. All right, I ended up getting a new airbag, not necessarily because I wanted a new airbag, but this one, the horn wasn't working. And you can see, like, I think when the airbag blew, that this part kind of blew out. So really, I'm just looking for this to make the horn work. So basically there's just a couple of wires here to connect to the airbag / horn, and hopefully that'll work. Okay, well I guess we'll try it out, see if the horn works. Horn works. All right, we never got the windshield wiper working as well. And somebody mentioned that's because the car thinks that the trunk or the frunk is up, the hood. And so that's true, meaning the light is on, it thinks the front hood is up. So we're gonna find the latch, make it so it's closed, and see if the windshield wiper will work. So here's the light that shows that the car thinks that the front hood or trunk is open. And with this, we're gonna go ahead and trick it. So there, now it thinks it's closed, and we'll try the windshield wiper. All right, here we go. All right, so get ready here. I really should bolt that down, but nice. Yes, that is awesome. Thank you, viewers. All right, so really the only one I've got left is the park brake, and I'm pretty sure it needs brake pressure. I've tried things that people have mentioned, like closing the door. I've done the brake switch so the brake lights go on, but again, the park brake will not go off. So I think it needs brake pressure. So with that being said, I either need to go in and give it like whatever signal it needs, like a 5-volt signal, or I need to create brake pressure. All right, this aluminum subframe we're not going to be using, so I'm actually going to take it to go get recycled. All right, just did the recycling. 49 pounds, 27 bucks. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We were able to solve a lot of issues. I'm sure that will not be the last time that we uncover some things that I did wrong. But I wanted to say thank you for everyone for tuning in and supporting the channel. See you next time.
Here we go. Oh, this is a little freaky. But this is so cool.
Come on, dude.
It's a GFI outlet.
Oh, I guess I should have pulled that up.